The Wii U, Nintendo's most successful console. Look, even though it's one of the most common punchlines to every Nintendo joke, I really like this console. Sure, it's sold poorly and its advertising was
hot buttered popcorn, that's a deal.
And there may not have been as many noteworthy titles released on it, but when there was, it was really damn good. Mario Kart 8, Mario Maker, 3D World, Pikmin 3, the list goes on. And while all that I just listed got better versions on the Switch, marking the Wii U versions obsolete, there's one that will always be stuck on the Wii U, and it's one of my favorites on that console. And its name is Nintendo Land. This game slaps so hard. I felt like it was the only Wii U game that actually wanted to use this thing. They utilized the gamepad to its fullest potential, giving different perspectives and controls between the gamepad and the TV, offering you lots of attractions that are not only creative but also really nice tributes to their respective Nintendo IPs. The way they celebrate their history makes this game feel very significant to both the developers and the players. And since I first played this game at a young age, lots of my first impressions for each series came from this game, and played a big role in shaping me as a Nintendo fan. Yeah, I know who Takamaru is. He's, a guy. I'm technically right. So I wanted to make a video out of this game near and dear to me and thought I could rank all 12 of its attractions. We got 3 co-op games, 3 competitive ones, and 6 single-player ones. We'll put a pin in that discussion. Without further ado, let's rank each one of them to see which attractions are genius and fun incarnate, and which ones are Yoshi's Fruit Cart. So I got a question for any fellow Nintendo landers. Have you ever turned on your Wii U, booted this game up, thought about all the fun attractions to choose from, and said to yourself, today I'll play Yoshi's Fruit Cart? No, you didn't. Don't lie to me. While every other attraction at least offers something that encourages me to revisit it, this one I think I played once and was like, no. This one by far has the least amount of substance to it, and uses the gamepad and TV in what seems like an interesting way, is so lame in execution. So in Yoshi's Fruit Cart, you have to draw a line on the gamepad that'll lead Yoshi to all the fruit on the map and into the gate. The twist being that you can't see any of the fruit on your gamepad, so you have to spot them on the TV screen and draw your path based on where you think they are on the gamepad. It's a decently creative premise. Just a shame that it isn't really fun. Being an inch off from one of the fruits is one of the most soul-crushing feelings I've ever felt. Using the checkerboard pattern when the level had them really helped me spot where they are, but in other cases, it has just a bit of trial and error. When I lose in other games, I always get that we'll get him next time feeling, but in Fruit Cart, I feel so unmotivated to continue because losing is so much more drawn out and it doesn't entirely feel like it was my fault. It gets especially bullshit when the fruit starts moving, because even if I do draw the path correctly, it doesn't matter if I don't press the go button at the right time. And from simply looking at the footage, you can see that it's just boring. Most of the challenge comes from it being an endurance test rather than a test of skill or puzzle solving. And if you want to get the star for this attraction, which is what you earn whenever you get far enough into said attraction, you have to beat 20 levels. I'm not doing that. If it weren't for the special gates that let you skip over levels, that would be actual hell. Honestly, Yoshi's Fruit Cart is not terrible, it's just aggressively mediocre, being packaged alongside one of the most fun multiplayer modes in any Nintendo game. It's the weakest link even among the one-player attractions. You have so much better options sitting right next to it. Why would you pick this one? I would not willingly play this unless I wanted to demonstrate its mediocrity to other people, as I'm doing right now. As a big Yoshi fan, I'm disappointed, and as a Nintendo Land connoisseur, I could not recommend playing this one any less. So back to the one-player attractions discussion, my biggest issue with Nintendo Land was always that in this party game, marketed as being mainly multiplayer, half of its games are exclusively single-player. I thought that was a very weird choice for the longest time, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. You're not always gonna have other people available to play with you, especially since if you buy a Wii U, you lose 40% charisma. So in that case, they give you plenty of stuff to do by your lonesome. Still, I find these to be overall weaker than the co-op and versus attractions from not being as fleshed out for the most part. A good example being Captain Falcon's Twister Race. As you'd expect, it's a racing game, I don't know what else it would be. You steer with holding the gamepad vertically and have to make it to the gate before the time runs out. It's meant to be a very fast-paced attraction, but it really isn't. My big issue with Twister Race is how much it contrasts from an actual F-Zero game. I know some of these attractions are quite the departure from the games they're based off of, like I don't recall Running from the Law in Animal Crossing, but I only found it to be a problem with this case in particular. What I like about the F-Zero games and what it has over Mario Kart is its high speed and intensity. In Twister Race, it's trying to be intense, but how intense can it be at this speed? Yeah, this isn't getting my adrenaline running as much as it wants it to, and it doesn't help that the level design is kind of plain. Most of the track is just a straightaway, and when it goes for curves, it does not feel natural at all. The control scheme is really pulling this attraction back. It does not feel good. The obstacles don't do much for me either, like the air vents or the bombs that end your entire run. These rainbow boost ramps are pretty frustrating because if you go at a less than straight angle, you're gonna get launched right off the track. The music is a bit of a letdown too. F-Zero has a banger soundtrack, yet barely any of it is remixed here. I was excited once I got to the final areas and it started playing Mute City, one of my favorite video game OSTs, only for it to play at like 50% volume. It was so anticlimactic. The way you use the different screens is neat though. The gamepad shows this top-down perspective, which is helpful when the angle on the big screen makes it hard to judge depth. But looking at the big screen gives you a much larger field of vision. I felt like it was a bit too short as well, only 12 areas each taking less than 30 seconds. I don't know, Captain Falcon's Twister Race has the potential to be this fun racing minigame, but I can't help but feel underwhelmed and it's too much of a contrast to what it's based on. By itself, it's a fine enough attraction, but it leaves a lot to be desired. Balloon Trip Breeze is the one I feel the most indifferent to. I don't like it that much, but I don't have many problems with it either. So you play a similar role as you did in the source material balloon fight, flying over the sea and try not to get your balloons popped from obstacles. But rather than directly controlling your player, you blow them around with the wind using a touchscreen. The imprecision from this could be a bit frustrating, but that's kind of the whole point of this game. The challenge comes from the imprecise controls. You gotta make sure not to push them around too hard when there's spikes all over the place. The chick enemies are pretty aggressive and annoying to deal with, but that's what makes breaking the eggs before they hatch so satisfying. I love killing newborns in my Nintendo games. The levels are structured in a neat way. Having each segment of the level be divided into times of the day really helps this attraction feel cohesive. And the different weather conditions add some nice gameplay variety. I also like how much it uses your Miis as background characters. It's funny seeing my brother's freaks of nature just hanging around. And that's really all there is to Balloon Trip Breeze. Like Twister Race, I found it way too easy to get the star for this attraction. Once you're on the morning of only day 3, you get a bubble popping bonus round, unknowing that this is a quote-unquote finale. This was also pretty underwhelming, but I can't say it's disappointing. I have zero expectations for an adaptation of Balloon Fight, so while it's far from my first choice when it comes to single-player adventures, I still kind of enjoy playing it when I do. Balloon Trip Breeze is just sort of here, and I don't mind it one bit.
Number 7. Squidward's penis is on his face.
Octopus Dance, on the other hand, I've got stronger feelings for. Mixed ones at that. I did not care for this one at all as a kid. I never seemed to get very far. But upon replay, I ended up liking it a bit more. So Octopus Dance is a rhythm game where your instructor gives hidden body movements and then you have to copy after him. Wow, I can't believe Nintendo Land predicted Friday Night Funkin'. I think it used the control sticks and motion controls pretty well. It helps that the timing and accuracy is forgiving. So at first, I had no idea what I was doing. I felt like the controls were inverted and I was so lost and frustrated. So then I went to the tutorial and found out that the TV and gamepad each have the camera in front of or behind the player. So you have to watch the screen that's behind you so the hand motions aren't mirrored. So the controls were actually fine. I was just having a Game Grumps moment. Once it clicked with me, it was actually pretty fun. How much is related to any of the Game & Watch games? I have no idea, but it makes a good rhythm game. It's important for rhythm games to have great music, and Octopus Dance does not disappoint. I always loved the music direction of Nintendo Land, where they mix chiptune and orchestra to reflect Nintendo's history, and that's no different here. I especially love stage 3 where the tempo drops and the vibe takes a very smooth turn. The difficulty with the body motions ramps up pretty fairly, where later on you tilt to the side or jump, or have to slide your hands from one direction to another. There may only be 5 stages, but soon you're gonna be thankful for that amount, because this is for sure one of the most brutal attractions, and I'm not sure if I fuck with it or not. You only have 4 hearts, so throughout all the stages you can only mess up 3 times. For whatever reason, the final stage is pretty disorienting to me. I don't think my brain can process these complex patterns so fast. But you want to know the worst of it all? That fucking octopus that I hate. He blinds your gamepad at random, and if my instructor decides to do wackier motions, I just have to forfeit. I want to kill this little shit. Maybe this is a bit pathetic to be saying for a Nintendo Land minigame, but I found it to be a bit much for the base difficulty level. Who knows, I could just suck at rhythm games. So I'm pretty split on Octopus Dance, and I only think I would play this to pass the time, like if I'm waiting for the other players to finish taking a shit. But it isn't bad by any means, I just kinda vibe with it, but at the same time I kinda don't. It's weird.
Oh my god, it's Super Mario! Super Mario, bro! Hey.
So far, it seems like the entire bottom half of this ranking is going to be all the single-player attractions. However, we'll be taking a break from those and get to our first competitive attraction. These are the most popular ones, simply from the fun dynamic of one person going against everybody else. However, I feel like these are pretty hit or miss, as creating a balanced and engaging 1 vs 4 game is not an easy task. And now this might be a bit controversial to my fellow Nintendo Land fans, but hear me out, I found Mario Chase to be the least fun. This seems to be the most popular popular attraction from not only being competitive, but also because, you know, it's Marcus. We all know and love Marcus, and it's also pretty easy to understand. One day, Mario was running and jumping around, and I guess the Toad suddenly decided, let's kill him. So the Toads have to chase after Mario and tackle him before the time runs out. The game is quite simple, but I'd say it's too simple. You chase Mario. That's all there is to it. When you're playing as Mario, I'd say it's pretty exciting having to hide and evade all the players. But playing as one of the Toads, at least from my experience, is kinda not fun. Moving around with the D-pad is uncomfortable, and hunting down Mario can sometimes feel like an unsatisfying uphill battle. Like, yep, I'll surely get to him one day. What makes this game of tag a little more interesting is its social aspects. Every stage is divided into 4 color-coded segments, so if one of the Toads finds Mario in the blue area, they can shout something like, he's in blue. I think this was a smart way to help the Toads communicate and track down Mario easier. There's 3 arenas and they're mostly fine. I like how stage 1 has observation points and stage 3 has slides, but I really don't like stage 2. There's mud that slows you down and Mario can take down bridges over the mud, giving him even more of a head start. This level is very mean to the Toads when the game is already pretty mean to them. But my least favorite part about Mario Chase that really throws the balance out the window has to be this stupid star. About halfway through the match, a star spawns in the middle, and Mario can grab it to be invincible and beat the shit out of the Toads. I sure love the pursuit coming to a complete halt so I can get bullied for 15 seconds. And yeah, it lasts for way too long and breaks the gameplay flow. I guess it serves to entice the player to get out of hiding, but rarely has Mario ever gotten caught while trying to get the star from my experience. This alongside the monotonous gameplay leads Mario Chase to be not as fun as it's made out to be. And due to the lack of additional mechanics that support either side, I feel like the outcome of the match relies much more on general skill level. If Mario is your dad, you'll catch him in no time. When your target demographics are families, it's important to level the playing field and give people with varying skill levels a fighting chance. And while there's another versus game that does this very well, I can't say the same for Mario Chase. My favorite part though has to be after the round finishes where it plays a time lapse of where everyone went on the map. It's hilarious finding out what that one useless player was doing the whole match. It's absolutely brilliant how much drama this can ensue. Other than that, Mario Chase is a pretty basic game that, while I do have some fun with it, I can never shake the feeling of wanting to play something else. Yet everyone I play Nintendo Land with immediately flocks to this one, and so I play it with just a bit of resentment.
I certainly hope you've got a fishing license. Well, no, I don't, but... Oh, no? Have you got it?
Animal Crossing Sweet Day is a bit better, but not by much. I actually used to think this was the best attraction. I must have been on all the chemicals under the sink.
He ate glue.
So in Animal Crossing Sweet Day, the players using Wii remotes have to eat a certain amount of candy littered across the ground and shaken down from trees, while being pursued by gatekeepers being controlled by the gamepad user. If the gatekeeper tackles any of them 3 times before they eat enough candy, they win. So yeah, it's basically the inverse of Mario Chase, but I prefer this since I think the one person being the aggressor works better than multiple people trying to coordinate going after one guy. You'd expect one person controlling 2 characters would be overwhelming, but it actually works pretty well with each only having 1 button and a control stick. But I did say this was slightly better than Mario Chase because it's got a few of its own problems. For one, it only has 2 arenas and you can barely tell the difference between them. And here's proof. I swapped the labels and you didn't even know. And the candy thieves are at a high disadvantage. They have a shared health bar of 3 hits, so the gatekeepers can just keep jumping the weak link. Not to mention that only 3 hits is ridiculous. 5 would have made a world's difference. However, what gives Sweet Day more depth than Mario Chase is the gimmick with eating candy. The more you eat, the slower you run. So if there's a guard in your tail and you're absolutely bloated, you have to drop a bunch of candy so you can run faster. What can make these matches so intense is trying to avoid the attention of the gatekeepers while having an entire IKEA in your mouth. Getting caught in 4K I think is the funniest part about Sweet Day. That being said, it's still too difficult for the candy thieves to win. Both matches that I played with my siblings, the gamepad user absolutely swept. I say it has a similar problem with Mario Chase where as long as I'm slightly better at games than most of the group, I'm probably gonna win. When the fact that I'm going against 2 to 4 other players should make winning more difficult, and really goes to show that one of the competitive games completely sweeps the others. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Monkey?
Oh hey, it's Donkey Kong, the first game ever made. We've now reached the attractions that are overall pretty good. First up is Donkey Kong Crash Course. I used to play this one a ton, only for me to lose pretty quickly on every attempt. Crash Course is one of the harder attractions, and that comes from its focus on physics. So this is not the game for gravity dislikers. You tilt the gamepad to move around this doohickey, and it's very easy to break if you're moving too fast or if you hit the ground too hard. It's almost like a callback to the original Donkey Kong with how easy it was to break Mario's legs. I find the presentation to be really cute, how the background is a chalkboard and how the whole level is this maze-like contraption themed after the arcade game. All the ways you move the buttons and control sticks to move around platforms adds to the game just feeling really satisfying. It's one of those games where you easily lose if you don't know what you're doing, but once you figure it out, you'll start to breeze right through it. Like that one part where the platforms get launched when you press the R button. I always thought you had to hold the button for a very specific amount of time and I was getting pretty frustrated with it, but no, you just press it. I felt so dumb figuring that out, which is also much like the game it is based on, where really the difficulty only came from its weird controls and gimmicks, which you can easily overcome with the experience. But just when you think you're done and they give you the star for this attraction, upon replay, there's a whole other level and the things they make you do are pretty unhinged. I like it a lot, but once you beat that level, you get access to even harder versions of those two levels, only after you beat those first two again. Yeah, Crash Course has a weird thing with its level progression. For some reason, once you beat a level and unlock the next, they kick you back to the start. I don't know why they do this, because all it does is make the gameplay feel repetitive and dull. It leads to me being able to get through the first level way too easily from how much they make me play it. Also, there was this one time where it opened up the door to the second level, and I guess I was taking too long because it just kicked me out. Damn. Well, that's just rude. So Donkey Kong Crash Course makes some weird decisions when it comes to game structure, but the fact that the core gameplay still feels great, I very much enjoy this one still. As weird as it is to say, it's kind of my comfort game. Like, it's the attraction I boot up whenever I need a palate cleanser from playing some of the bigger attractions, because it's just a very comfy game from how it's presented and how it feels. Except when it wants me to do a flip, that shit stresses me out. It may be one of the shorter games, but it'll have you coming back again and again. And now we've arrived at the first of my favorite group of attractions, the team attractions. Not only are these entire campaigns spanned throughout several stages, but they're both single and multiplayer, so they can be played whether you've got friends over, or in most cases, while you're lonesome, because reminder, you're playing the Wii U in 2025. These three are the kings of Nintendo Land, and I have so many great memories playing through them. But the sad part about doing these ranking videos is that I have to put one of my Scrimlows beneath my other Scrimlows. So reluctantly, I'll have to say Pikmin Adventure is the weakest co-op game. But make no mistake, this one's really good. Pikmin Adventure takes the gameplay from the Pikmin games and simplifies it by focusing purely on its combat. You can play either as a Pikmin and whack at the enemy's weak points, or as Captain Olimar where you'll be throwing Pikmin at them. The Pikmin don't die permanently here, which is good because my 7-year-old self could not handle having blood on his hands. Beat 'em up games can get dull pretty quickly and easily, but here beating up creatures is really satisfying from how you slowly break their weak point orbs. And once you shatter them, it just feels really nice. Gives me all the motivation to continue murdering. I like the EXP system with collecting nectar making you stronger, and all the different power-ups like the hammer and the whip. I also like how the levels are themed after the 4 seasons like Pikmin 2. It's interesting to see them create custom beasts for this attraction, but at the same time I'm disappointed that outside of the Bulborbs, there aren't many Pikmin creatures that get translated to this mechanical art direction. And the other way around sort of happened when I played this and then got Pikmin 2 a few years later. Like, how can I play this? There's no Beebs. Also, side note, Pikmin 2 should not be your first Pikmin game. So while Pikmin Adventure pretty much does one thing, which is beating up robot creatures, I think it does it pretty well. So then why do I think this is the weakest of the 3 co-op games? Damn, this game is slow. The movement speed is not a huge deal since the game is built around it, but I feel like these levels just drag and drag sometimes. It feels like this didn't really need 16 levels. What do you mean King Beeb is back? I saw him die to my own men. And to be honest, this game isn't as fun in multiplayer. You also have a shared health bar here, and the health starts at 3. Obvious problems here, but it's also just a kind of gameplay that can't keep the attention of multiple people as well as one person. Understandably, I can never get my friends to play much of Pikmin Adventure from its slower pacing compared to the rest. I don't know, maybe if it also had Subway Surfers or Family Guy beautiful moments. While Pikmin Adventure might not be for the whole family, it definitely is for those looking for a lengthy solo campaign. And it's a shame I have to put this against the games I believe to be better, but that's just the way these go.
Son, always remember, dying is gay.
By far, the best single-player exclusive is Takomaru's Ninja Castle. My American ass totally butchered that. Ninja Castle is a shooting gallery. You point at the gamepad at the screen to aim, and slide your finger across the screen to throw ninja stars. Sounds like quite the unconventional control scheme, but once you get used to it and you're holding the gamepad comfortably, it actually feels pretty smooth. The speed that you slide your finger will be the speed of the throwing star, so you really gotta swipe hard on the screen to take out the ninjas, and it really makes you feel the power of your throwing stars. I also like how your tour guide, Monita, plays a role in-game as the hostage. I honestly couldn't put this down. I probably should have though, my hands started to hurt after a while. You can also draw shapes on the gamepad to gain certain abilities for a short time, like throwing bombs or slowing down time. The split-second drawing on the touchscreen makes Ninja Castle so fast-paced and exciting, and it felt like the most fulfilling test of my reflex out of anything in this game. It helps that the stages ramp up in difficulty pretty naturally. That is until the boss fight, which, while it looks pretty cool, once you take out his hands he mostly just dances around not doing shit. But after that ordeal, we finally rescue Monita. Imposter? Among Us? This is such a fun twist, and it opens up a harder version of the campaign, and it actually is pretty intense. This is not for the faint of heart. Ninja Castle proved to me that being exclusively single player doesn't mean that you can't go as hard as the multiplayer centric attractions, and the fact that I have no recognition of what this is based off of, being an obscure Nintendo game that was stuck in Japan, shows that none of the appeal comes from recognizing the game. I didn't have that much to say about it, but yeah, easily the strongest one-player attraction. A shining star in a world of mid.
You can tell I love Nintendo by my ability to buy merchandise. I've never played Metroid.
As the title card says, I've never played Metroid, but that didn't stop me from having a great time with Metroid Blast. You move across the map, whether it be on foot or in the air, to shoot waves of alien creatures. While other attractions simplify the gameplay to be casual friendly, it's refreshing to have Metroid Blast be more complex by having fully free movement and shooting. So of course, I, the hardcore gamer, who plays only Nintendo and indie games, find this attraction to be very much appealing. I really like the enemy designs, how their weak points are power buttons. It helps their weak points stand out from the rest of their anatomy, so it's easy to spot. By far, it has the most amount of levels, with a whopping 20 main missions and 10 extra ones, but the individual missions are pretty short, so it's about the same length as the other campaigns. Out of all the co-op attractions, this one feels the most co-op centric. For one, you actually have individual HP, and players can revive each other by dropping hearts for those out of the game. They can all just sort of do their own thing without needing to be a hive mind, and I love how the shooters on the ground can hang from the gamepad player's ship to help with aerial combat. There was this fight with Kraid, and we used that technique to throw the bomb in his stomach. The teamwork went so hard. And the missions where each player has to find their tokens on the map helps give each player their own responsibility. This is definitely the go-to team game, but if you're playing by yourself, it feels like something is missing. I don't know, the game isn't quite as strong when it's just a ship pilot or just a ground shooter. The dynamic between the players is what makes Metroid Blast as great as it is, and nothing demonstrates this as well as the versus mode. Putting the pilot and ground shooters against each other makes for utter shenanigans. Absolute tomfoolery will ensue. It has to be one of the single most fun experiences you can get from this collection. It does come with a few shortcomings, like there's only 5 different arenas and some of the missions can feel a bit repetitive. It is pretty obnoxious dealing with the Metroids. Still, Metroid Blast is a great time with friends and a solid time on your own. You could say that it's a blast.
It was a day on Halloween when the man ran in and he funny screamed.
For those of you who likely didn't get a Wii U and Nintendo Land by proxy, I feel sorry that you won't get the chance to play Luigi's Ghost Mansion. Don't confuse it with Luigi's Mansion, which has no ghosts. This has to have one of the greatest multiplayer dynamics I've ever played. The tension, the teamwork, the tomfoolery, it's so good. What makes Ghost Mansion so much better than Mario Chase and Sweet Day is that the two teams are actually out for each other. The ghost hunters have to shine their flashlights on the ghosts to eradicate them, while at the same time, the ghost being controlled by the gamepad user has to jump scare all the ghost hunters and leave none of them standing. Now this is how you make an involved competition game. Now both sides will be constantly having to decide where they should go for the kill or if it's time to retreat. It is such a creative way to use the different screens too, where the ghosts can see themselves on the gamepad but those using the TV can't, and can only sense them from how much the Wii remote is vibrating. The way your Wiimote starts trembling more and more the closer the ghost is to you really delivers on the spookiness and tension that's going for. I also found Ghost Mansion to be the most balanced game too. The ghosts won just about as often as the hunters did from our recording session. While there is one ghost going up against up to 4 people, they have some abilities that bring them up to about the same level, like how they can dash towards someone but at the cost of being visible, or being able to deplete everyone's batteries but having to stay idle for a bit. It's also just fun being the ghost, making everyone in the room shiver their timbers, and being on the ghost hunting team is also fun, trying to work together to gang up on the ghost. Keyword trying. The 5 different stages are pretty neat too. I like the one with the conveyor belts where the ghost can make people's corpses go for a ride, and I like the stage with the haunted suits of armor that trick you into thinking the ghost ghost is near. The rooftop fucking sucks though. I played it once and didn't even finish the match. Luigi's Ghost Mansion is without a doubt one of the cornerstones of the Wii U. I'd even say it's not worth selling your console for this alone, but I had a pretty hard time deciding if this or another attraction was the single best in Nintendo Land, because they each have vastly different approaches but both greatly succeed in their own way, so I had to come down to which style appealed to me the most. And so I've concluded that what I see as the best Nintendo Land attraction would have to be The Legend of Zelda Battle Quest. This game is solely what convinces me to boot up my dusty Wii U every now and then. There's no other attraction that I get more fun and joy out of than Battle Quest. This is an on-the-rails sword-swinging adventure, filled to the brim with brilliantly crafted environments. You can use the gamepad to fire arrows at enemies, but my go-to is always the sword with the Wii Remote. For those who love the swordplay mode from Wii Sports Resort, welcome to paradise. Motion controls aren't for everyone, especially if the gameplay is solely that, but as someone who grew up with the motion control era, this feels right at home for me. There's something about the one-for-one feedback between how you move in real life and how you move in-game that creates this very satisfying and immersive gameplay loop. And it's not just mindlessly slashing away either. You have to maneuver around the enemy's shield or you'll be exposed to an attack. They really make sure that slashing at enemies feels great, from how they're all stitched together out of cotton and yarn, and you can see them slowly get more rips and tears as you chip away at their health. I'm also glad that the movement is automatic so that you can solely focus on the attacking. I really like how they handled the level structure too. Each of the maps are actually interconnected, and you walk down a different route on each stage. One stage you'll walk through a plain and into a temple, and another you'll start in the forest and make your way up the mountains. You know, it's just like Breath of the Wild, except not at all in the slightest. While Pikmin Adventure felt like the multiplayer was weaker than the solo play, and the other way around with Metroid Blast, I feel that Battle Quest is fun no matter how many people are playing. As long as it isn't 5. Player 5 can go eat shit. Yeah, it's a bit weird that this is the only multiplayer game that caps at 4 players, but I guess 5 would be overwhelming because I'd assume that'd be too many heads blocking the archer's aim. You also have a shared health bar here, but this time it's 6 hearts, so if you do lose all of them, you can blame it on teamwork issue. Also, it's kind of funny when the rest of the group turns against the guy who lost the last heart.
The second time.
Yeah, that's...
What is this shit?
And can I just say how good the Zelda remixes are? I remember listening to this game's remix of Gerudo Valley for the first time and I was like, wait a second. Video game music is kind of awesome. It's the perfect length too. 9 main levels and 5 decently hard bonus levels. I do have one nitpick with this attraction though. The 4th Link is yellow and not purple. That makes me irrationally upset. Make him purple, damn it. All around a really fun Zelda-themed swordplay game. And this was also my first impression of the Zelda series and ended up getting Majora's Mask 3D a few years later. Majora's Mask should not be your first Zelda game. Like I said, it was hard to decide if this or Luigi's Ghost Mansion is the best Nintendo Land attraction since they're both peak, but I went with Battle Quest since Ghost Mansion is really only at its full potential when there's at least 4 players. With Battle Quest, it's a great time on your own or with friends. And the same can be said of Nintendo Land as a whole. Such a fantastic compilation of games. They're not all hits of course, but having a bunch of fun party games inspired by various Nintendo worlds and characters, using the gamepad and all the Wii U can do inside and out, this has to be one of the best launch titles for a console, even if it's for a console that didn't do so well. This really proved that, despite it being a colossal failure, the Wii U is still one of my favorite consoles for bringing us amazing games like Nintendo Land. But that's just my silly ramblings. For those who actually played Nintendo Land, let me know how you'd rank these attractions. And for those who haven't, let me know why Wii Sports is better. But since I'm done with this game for the time being, that leaves me with the second best thing to do with the Wii U.